Yo, YouTube, what is good, bruv, gang? What is good, and we are back with another video. Now, I know 2023 has been stacked full of JRPG releases, and your backlogs must be piling up with all the new releases that are still yet to come. Well, lucky for you, I'm going to be adding to your backlogs by giving you guys, in no particular order, 5 underrated JRPGs I feel you need to play in 2023. Nier Replicant. If we're talking about underrated games, then Nier Replicant has to be on this list. Releasing back in 2021, Nier Replicant was a game that caught me by surprise and immediately had me hooked. Serving as a prequel to Nier Automata, Nier Replicant is the Japanese version we never got over here in the West of the original Nier that was released for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 back in April 2010. So Nier Replicant allows you to play as a younger main protagonist, with a time skip that sees you play as a teenager as opposed to the original Nier where you play as an adult main protagonist throughout the game. So if you guys have ever played Nier Automata, you will absolutely love Nier Replicant. This remake of the original Nier implements the same beloved combat mechanics used in Nier Automata. With fast, fluid action combat, Nier Replicant is super fun to play and never gets boring. Just being able to move around so fast and freely, jumping around and slashing enemies with your sword with beautiful visual effects, Nier, in my opinion, aside from games like the Yi series and Devil May Cry, has the best action combat in any video game franchise out to date. One thing that I think is super underrated in Nier Replicant is the characters. Personally, in my opinion, I grew way more attached to the characters in Replicant than I did in Automata. Personally, I absolutely love the dynamic between Grimoire Weiss and the main character, and also Kaine. No, not Kanye West, Kaine. I absolutely loved her character development, and not to mention how badass she was throughout the game. One thing that I think is super slept on in Nier Replicant is the locations. I thought the locations in Nier Replicant were really well done, my favourite area being the desert area. I spent a lot of my time there doing different side missions, and that's also another thing that is executed superbly throughout Nier Replicant, making every side mission feel like a main mission with great character development throughout. Another thing that I absolutely loved throughout this game was the music. Now, the music in the Nier series of games is incredible, but Nier Replicant just took it to another level, with that blend between beautiful, peaceful, opera-like singing when you're out in the open field to that hard-hitting, dark and mysterious type of feel when in battle. The game just has a perfect balance of arrangements throughout, and it's something I feel is super underrated in this game. Now, Nier Replicant may not be as popular as Nier Automata, but in my opinion is a super underrated game and deserving of more praise. As mentioned, if you are a fan of Automata, you will definitely enjoy Replicant. This is a game I feel everyone needs to experience 100%. Star Ocean: The Divine Force. If you guys are fans of the channel, you will know that I absolutely love Star Ocean: The Divine Force, and personally made my top 5 JRPGs of 2022 list last year. And being a big fan of the Star Ocean games, this felt like a huge return to form for Trius in my opinion. The combat felt so much more refined and fluid, and of course, this now being Star Ocean's first outing on the next gen consoles just felt like a more modern day JRPG. Getting back to the combat, I absolutely love being able to chain together combos and fly around the combat area with the use of Duma. The use of AP and using mechanics such as blindside hits to gain back AP I thought was executed superbly throughout this game. One thing I really loved about the combat is that you're constantly learning new things throughout the game, learning ways to exploit blindsides as mentioned, to gain back AP, to keep combo strings running. The combat had that old school Star Ocean feel but was modernized to fit the mold of current action based RPGs. One thing that might slip under the cracks, and is something I appreciated in Star Ocean: The Divine Force and was very much similar to a game like Scarlet Nexus, was the use of dual protagonists. Being able to play through two sides of the story boosted the game's replayability. Personally, I only played through Raymond's story, but I do 100% plan on going back and playing through Letitia's side of the story. The cast of characters I thought were really dope throughout the game, with Raymond easily being my favourite character. Okay, he might have a pretty jacked up hairstyle, but aside from that, he was such a great main character throughout the game. While the story was pretty much a standard Star Ocean affair, it was still enough to have me wanting to see what was going to happen next. Personally, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Star Ocean: The Divine Force. If this is your first outing with the Star Ocean series of games, I cannot recommend this game enough as a perfect starting point. It's modern, it's fun, and has amazing combat. This is definitely a game I feel is criminally underrated and a game I feel everyone needs to check out. Yakuza Like a Dragon. If you haven't played any of the Yakuza series of games, then what are you waiting for? In my opinion, the series as a whole is super underrated, with Yakuza Like a Dragon for me personally being the most underrated game in the franchise. Personally, I have such a great story with Yakuza Like a Dragon. I remember the game dropping in early 2020 during COVID. I had the game on my radar, but I knew it was a game I would eventually get round to, but not day one. So as time went by in the year, I picked up Cyberpunk 2077, which was a game I was eagerly anticipating. I remember getting it on my PS4, and of course, we all know how bad the release was for Cyberpunk. The game was just so unplayable, I had to send my copy back to Amazon. I then looked on Amazon and saw Yakuza Like a Dragon sitting there on sale for £20 and immediately ordered it. I remember booting up the game for the first time and playing the first few hours and immediately thought to myself, I should have picked this game up day one. So Yakuza Like a Dragon was the first game in this series from the main line of games to feature a turn-based battle system, and of course if you guys are fans of the channel and know me well, you know I love turn-based anything in a video game. Coupled with the already intense Yakuza story and the game not taking itself too seriously, and of course the turn-based combat, Yakuza Like a Dragon easily shaped up to be one of my favourite Yakuza games in the series. So the one thing that Yakuza games are known for are their great cast of characters, and this was no different in Yakuza Like a Dragon. The cast of characters was so easy to fall in love with on this 45-hour plus experience. My favourite character of course being Ichiban. That dude was an absolute nut throughout the whole game but had such strong character development. So if you are a new fan of the Yakuza series of games and are a fan of turn-based combat, I personally think this is a great place to start for new fans. The game will have you hooked with its amazing story, great side quests, and of course dope turn-based combat. So for me personally, Yakuza Like a Dragon is probably one of the most underrated games to come out in recent memory. And if you do decide to play, you will see why this game is reviewed and rated so highly, and it's definitely a game 100% worth playing. Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. For me personally, Ys 8 is easily my favourite game in the series, and I would have to say this game is the game that popularised the series a little more over the last few years. So if you want a game that you could just jump straight into without having prior knowledge of previous games, then look no further than Ys 8. The Ys series of games are well known for its fast fluid combat being super fun, with the beloved main character Adult Christian going on a new adventure in each game. For me personally, the Ys games have always been so fun to me and I haven't missed a release since Ys Origin. The Ys games in general are super underrated, but there's just something about Ys 8 that took the series to the next level. The story felt like the best in the series, with the mystery of the island slowly being unfolded before you was amazing to see. For me personally, the combat felt so much more fluid and dare I say more responsive as opposed to the previous games, and the previous games in this series had done a great job at feeling responsive too. Being able to explore the island was the perfect adventure setting for Ys 8, and just coupled with the fast combat and being able to switch characters so freely just felt so fun to play. Ever since its release, Ys 8 is a game I pretty much go back and play every year. Whether that be on my PS Vita or on the go, or on the PS4, I always have a blast playing through this game. So if you are new to the Ys series of games, Ys 8 is a game I can't help but recommend. As mentioned, if you want a game you could just jump straight into without crazy complicated mechanics and want to have fun with a great story and characters to boot, Ys 8 is perfect, and it's a game that is super underrated and I feel more people need to play. Tokyo Xanadu. When we talk about underrated games, Tokyo Xanadu is the one that springs to mind immediately, and is a game I cannot help but recommend. I've said it in previous videos, but think of Tokyo Xanadu as if the Persona series of games and the Ys series of games had a baby. Tokyo Xanadu is essentially a cross between the high school setting of the Persona games and the action combat of the Ys series of games, all coupled together to blend a very underrated game with a really dope story and a super likeable cast of characters. Just a quick side story, personally I have such a deep love for Tokyo Xanadu, and it's actually one of the first games I actually did a walkthrough on YouTube. Those videos will probably never see the light of day, but they are privated, so don't expect to ever see them. But anyways, getting back to Tokyo Xanadu, this game for me was one that I very much likened to Persona 5, mainly in terms of not just the high school setting, but the character development and the story were in my opinion so strong throughout. That's one thing that you can always guarantee on with Falcom, is that they never drop the ball for me when it comes to stories and character development in their games. So the combat as mentioned was similar to the Ys series of games, but had its own unique feel. I love the dungeons throughout the game, and being able to switch through different party members to exploit weaknesses on the fly was really well done. The boss battles were another thing that I praise, all having their own unique attacks that you would need to dodge and figure out their attack patterns. Combat felt so fluid and refreshing to play. The one thing that I love most about Tokyo Xanadu was that amazing OST, and usually a lot of the time that's one thing I look for the most when I'm playing JRPGs. I frequently listen to it a lot whenever I'm writing scripts for videos, and you guys will usually hear it in my intro sometimes. I think it's that damn good. Whenever I'm recommending JRPGs to newer fans, Tokyo Xanadu is usually the game I recommend first, and probably a game that most JRPG YouTubers would agree is criminally underrated. Personally, I adore Tokyo Xanadu, and it's a game I 100% feel is worth checking out. With the game now being made more accessible with the recent announcement that it will be coming to the Nintendo Switch, this is a perfect opportunity to check out this underrated hidden gem from Falcom. So that'll do it for this video guys. I really appreciate you guys for watching. I'd love to know some of the JRPGs you feel are underrated, so please let me know down below in the comments. So please like, sub, share if you're new, hit that notification bell so you get notified for my videos first, and I hope I can be you guys' #1 source for all JRPG news. So from me too, this has been your bruv, the big bruv, and I'm gonna catch you guys on the next video. I'm out. Peace!